Wes, when you first start writing a stage play or a screenplay, even for a short or feature, is there a structure that you follow? Do you start outlining? What's your process? Let's suppose you have an idea, you have a story you want to tell. What are some of the things that you first do in the beginning?
For me, I let it sit for a while. I let it sit for a while. And I tend to, what I've learned for me over the years, for my own personal kind of instrument, is that when I first started, I would get excited about an idea and I would tell everyone about it. I would call my brother, I would tell my friend, I would call you and tell you, I would call him and tell, And then, because you're excited about it, and I think that's a good energy to have when you have a story to tell. But what I do now is that I don't tell anyone about it. And I think that's important for me.
Interesting.
Because I think you want to, it's almost like a boxer. You want to get into the ring with as much energy as possible so that when the bell rings, you're coming out, swinging. And what I discovered over the years is that when you spend all your energy telling people about it, and then you get in front of the computer, you have no energy. You're done telling people about it, right? So for me, I keep it all bagged up. I get excited about it, and I talk to myself about it, and I think about it a whole lot. And I get it to the point where for me, it's about 70% done. I never want to get to the point where it's 100% done, because you want to allow for some room for inspiration and changes. So I get it to the point where it's about 70% figured out. And then there's all this kind of energy kind of boiling. And then I wake up really early in the morning, have my coffee, and I just sort of like spend all that energy getting it out onto the page. And then it's on the page, and then you have a little bit of, kind of security, and then you can maybe tell people about one scene or whatever. But, I think it's good to keep the energy wrapped up.
That's interesting,
yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people here that don't when they first come here, and I'm just wondering, was there a turning point? Was there like something that happened where you said, "Oh"?
I think trial and error. I
Okay.
think like for everybody, and what works for me may not work for other people. I'm a morning person. I like to write during the day. I know what my habits are when I get into a writing block. When I get into a writing block, I almost always go hiking by myself.
Interesting.
I almost always go and watch movies by myself. And again, other people have different things, and for me, I've gotten to know my kind of instrument over the years. I've gotten to know how I like to work and how I like to solve problems, So for me, not telling people about the story works.
How do you know you're in a block? I know that sounds like a really strange question because it sounds like it'd be so obvious, but maybe you're not in a block. Maybe you're just like tired. How do you know that you're not tired or something else isn't going on, but it's an actual block with the story?
That's a really good question. I do think that sometimes you do get tired. I think for me, this sounds really kind of weird, and I'm sure a lot of the writers who might be watching this might understand, because it's such an esoteric kind of a writerly, bullshit. But
I'm really good at that.
But I think if the writer is too much in the driver's seat, that's a bad thing. I think at some point the story has a life of its own. And I think in some ways a writer has to sort of surrender to, to the story, to the characters, some of the work, I wrote this really successful play in, it was produced in 2012, and, it was really well received, and I'm incredibly proud of it. That script came out of me like in 2 weeks,
Really?
And the idea came to me like 3 a.m, in a flash. And so there's something kind of spiritual and metaphysical about that I try not to answer and figure out.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know. So I think when you start to get too formulaic, when you start to try to like shoehorn too many things together, when you feel yourself like bullshitting, and you know, it's weird. I mean, it's a fine line of being authentic and formulaic, being inspired and being disciplined. And those are really kind of weird kind of intersections.
So in other words, it sounds like you don't really want to overthink it too much and have like a name for the process. You just know it's instinctual.
Yeah, I try to. It's a balance. It's a balance. We keep on going back to the word balance. It's a balance, you know, because I tend to be very heady at times, but you know, you don't want to go overboard.
Which I don't think is a bad thing, because it keeps you on track. You know, because if you go too far out, you might be too much of a dreamer, and all these ideas are there and you're telling everybody, but nothing's happening.
Right.
Whereas how you talked about it earlier, when you knew you just had like, no, 90 pages isn't going to work. It's got to be 75 because it's going to cost, you know, I mean, that sounds like it's working now.
I think All I Want, the project, was, again, you know, unique because it's a collaborative project with another person, Melissa, who's, you know, very personally tied to the story in terms of her, you know, heartstrings, you know, and so, you know, I didn't have the ability to make all the decisions, you know, in a vacuum, you know, for better or worse, you know. We had to really have conversations about, you know, character and plot all along the way, which is, you know, different from, you know, previous projects in the sense that I kind of wrote it on my own, and I kind of wrote it on my own, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to accomplish. So yeah.